The neatest thing I think about our state parks, or being a park ranger here, is at least if you want to see what Florida used to look like 50 years ago, 20 years ago, 100 years ago, when our parents were coming here, state parks are the place to go, because it's our theme is the real Florida. It was the first park of its kind, underwater park, first underwater park in the continental United States, and since that time there's been a lot more concern about the offshore areas and the coral reefs, and more knowledge has been gained by, how important the coral reefs are, how important the mangrove estuaries and the turtle grass areas that lead out to them, the coral reefs. In addition, about 2/3 of all the food and game fish that are found out on the coral reefs have their beginnings somewhere up in the mangrove estuaries. So it is really the basis of the food chain. In addition, it is filtering out the sediments that would kill out the coral reefs. You got to think of the coral reefs as two types of areas. You got to think of them as living animals, that are very fragile and very dependent on us to take care of them as far as the filtering and keeping pollutants and et cetera from destroying them. But they're also, as a whole ecosystem, you have to think of them as a habitat too.
Okay, and right on the other side of the hard coral is the garden area. A lot of pretty sea fans and parrotfish in that area. I personally think that this right edge is the very prettiest part of the reef.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. Okay.
Pennecamp's probably the prime spot in the coast of the United States. I think it's probably one of the world wonders. I think it should be a world wonder like the Grand Canyon or mountains of Colorado. I think it's a world wonder. Probably should be treated that way.
Marvelous. What a day.
Well, the fish that we saw down there are probably fish that we would at home see in an aquarium. And so to be actually swimming in amongst them was just something superb.
It's so clear, it's beautiful, colours of fish, colours of coral. It's unbelievable. Much, much better than the pictures. Really lovely.
Once you get into snorkeling, it's very addicting, though. You're going to be signing up for the first scuba class you can get into, because you can snorkel down to 20, 25 feet, and you get down there and you start holding your breath, looking around, and it's a whole nother world. It definitely opens up another world, and then when you think that for snorkeling, then you get into scuba diving, you get down there and you can take a breath, you can sit down on the sandy bottom and look around, and the fish get used to your presence because you're down there. You're not struggling to, to keep your altitude down there on the bottom just right. And you got the dive tank on, you can sit down there, you can get calm and motionless and allow the fish to start gathering around you. Because it has been protected for 28 years, the fish are used to people. And they actually will pose for you if you have a camera. And I'm serious, I could take you to 2 reefs right now where I go out there and you hang a camera over your neck, and there would be a fish, a grouper or an angelfish would come by and, how's that? Oh, not good? And actually will turn for you back and forth. A lot of major reefs got their name from either a ship that ran aground there or some major happening that happened on that area. Molasses Reef was named from a barge load of molasses that ran aground there. And this is probably the neatest spots to go snorkeling or diving, because when you go out snorkeling, of course, there's something about, you could have a reef that's 8, 10 foot below the surface and then another spot where it drops down to 15, and everybody's going to try to dive down along that ledge, because that's where you're going to see a lot of life. You can take away the fish and probably see more life there than you could ever identify or, in a day's time. That's the neat thing about the reef. It's not just the fish, it's not just the corals, it's not just the sponges or the lobsters, it's everything there together. Just a little bit further north, there's French Reef. This is one of my favorites for diving, for scuba diving. It's better situated for scuba diving because it is a little bit deeper reef areas. It's got some trenches and some caves and gullies that you can get up underneath and go through some of these caves. Some of them, like the Hourglass Cave, you go in and it just sort of narrows down and then it widens back up. Benwood Wreck, it's about 265-foot freighter, and it's great for scuba diving. It was torpedoed by a German U-boat. U-boats were working up and down the coast of Florida at the time out in the Gulf Stream. And supposedly not many people knew about it, but they were known. A lot of ships were sunk by German U-boats out in the Gulf Stream. The Benwood supposedly was torpedoed, and as it was limping ashore trying to get in where it wouldn't totally sink in 1,500 fathoms of water, got in closer to the reef line. As it was coming into the reef line, it was accidentally rammed by another freighter. It really caused all kinds of damage, so it's aground where it presently sits. And if you want to identify the fish and really get into seeing schools and schools of fish, probably the Benwood is probably one of the better spots. Bouncing back and forth from the inner to the outer reef, you can go up to Grecian Rocks, which is another one of the more popular snorkeling areas. Most of the dive shops will dive Grecian Rocks sometime within the day. Just a little bit further north of Grecian Rocks is the Minnow Caves. This is a very small reef, probably, let's say 100 yards in diameter. And I may be off a few 20 or 30 yards, but it's called Minnow Caves because it's just that. You get up underneath some of these coral heads, and there's this cave that you go through, and as you knife yourself through there, the fish just part and allow you to go through all these clouds and schools of minnows, hence the name Minnow Caves. Just north of Grecian Rocks and Little Grecian, or the Minnow Caves, you'll find Key Largo Dry Rocks. This is where the statue's located. Anybody hears of Pennekamp and hears of diving, almost automatically picture, the Christ statue. This is a 9-foot-tall bronze statue. It's an exact replica of the Christ of the Abyss over in the Mediterranean. And it was dedicated by an underwater industrialist sportsman. When he dove the Mediterranean, he saw the statue and was just awed by it. He thought it was so great of an idea, to put a statue down there to commemorate all the people who lost their lives at sea, either for research during the war times or just sport diving. And he had one exact replica made, cast in bronze, and he donated to the state of Florida, or the Underwater Council of Florida, who donated it to the state of Florida, who put it here at Pennekamp, more appropriate place. And if you can snorkel down 8 or 10 feet, you can touch the hands and the head of the statue. And there's been a few weddings out there underwater. It's a real awe-inspiring spot. Further north, we have some place like the Elbow Reef. This is another reef that's marked by a lighthouse, and some of the deep dives off there are stupendous. There's a couple wrecks out there, a tugboat and some other boats that are sunk down there. It's in about 80 to 100, 120 foot, so it's more for the experienced scuba diver. Backside of the elbow, there's some excellent patch reefs for snorkeling for lobster and, again, taking pictures. When you come out here, I don't know, it's very addicting. I mean, once you get into snorkel, you get into scuba, and then you get into fish feeding and fish photography, and it's... For photography, you know, fish feeding is really no problem. Just when you start feeding fish, again, remember that food chain. You got fish that are getting real active, getting real excited, and they're sending off these frequencies. The predator fish come in to see what's going on. What's all the commotion? And if it's you know, a major shark or some type of predator that's aggressive, you could run into problems. So definitely when you get into feeding predator fish, barracudas and moray eels, or, you know, handling morays, you take a chance of, and I don't recommend that to just a casual diver going out there. We do it because, you know, we've done it for years and years to get good photos. You know which ones are aggressive, which ones may not be suitable for that type of feeding. And I do recommend not feeding predator fish.
I think I've been bitten by most everything down here. Only once it was seriously. I lost the use of one of my fingers. It's very dangerous. These fish have a capability of, moray eel will come out and bite a lobster right in half with one bite. That's the power they have in their jaws. A barracuda, such as Smokey, can come in and bite a 30-pound kingfish in half when you're fishing with one bite. Smokey overshot the feeding one day with me and took 2 of my fingers off, which doctors put back, but they don't work like fingers very well anymore, and that was my retirement in the barracuda feeding. I'm not going to do that anymore. Well, the eels, for one, live in an area called the Elbow, which is the north side of Pennekamp, and it's got 2 wrecks. One's called the City of Washington, the other one's called Mike's Wreck, and each eel sort of has a home in each one of these wrecks. So people that come out here on a regular basis will find the same eel in the same area on every day, basically. So they've wound up giving them names, and one's Melba and one's Moses, and they've been tamed down, and it's sort of fun. It makes them seem like pets, but you've got to remind people that they're really not pets. They're really wild creatures, you know, that kill other creatures for food every day, and you got to be careful with them. But giving them names just sort of makes it a little more fun.
We have 2 types of, or 2 different glass-bottom boats here. One is the Discovery, and I think this is the one that's the best situated for taking a trip out to the reef as far as a glass-bottom trip, because you actually go below decks with the windows around an angle, and it really gives you the same impression as if you were snorkeling. The other boat's a brand new boat that they just got in within a couple months ago, and this is called the San Jose. This is also a glass bottom boat, and this is going to be a fill-in boat that takes people out there. It's also got windows at an angle